the Steamtown National Historic Site, one of the largest and most well-known railroad museums in the United States. After my IRM trip in 2022, I planned for a second trip going to this specific location next year. It would be over a year in the planning with multiple revisions, but finally, in July of 2023, I would go to Steamtown. And this is what happened. Just like with last year's IRM trip, I went over to my dad's. My dad and aunt would be taking me. So I went over to my dad's that night so that my mom wouldn't have to wake up early in the morning to drive me over to dad's. These are some of the pictures I took. My aunt wouldn't arrive until the next morning. I stayed the night at dad's, and as you can see, I brought my Trackmaster Custom Big Boy along, as there's a Big Boy locomotive at Steamtown. I took a couple videos and pictures of it running on the wooden railway, as I assumed Big Boy would never get to visit this again. I mean, he didn't, but we'll get to that. Anyways, I was really nervous for the 10-hour drive to Steamtown tomorrow. This was either going to go really well or really terribly. Spoiler alert, it actually went pretty well. This is the route we'd be taking to Steamtown. It says it would take 9 hours and 52 minutes, but in reality, because of the stops we made, it actually took more like 12 hours. We left Dad's house at 7:30 in the morning, after picking up my aunt. As you would probably expect on a 10-hour drive, there was quite a lot of interesting stuff to see, like this Estes truck. And Estes sort of became a meme for the rest of the trip that we'd point out whenever we saw one. Here we see the sign for Jellystone Camping Grounds, where I've camped a couple of times. This sign for Pohagan State Park, which I destroyed my butt on a toboggan run one time. This FedEx truck that has 3 trailers, which is something I've not seen before. And we've passed into Ohio. The first interesting thing we saw on the road in Ohio was a truck with a CSX Stealth Ski intermodal container. It actually doesn't look that bad. And then we saw this orange truck. And if you can read the cab, it says Chip Express and Tommy the Tank on it. What is this? It became a whole meme for the rest of the journey that this truck might catch up with us. I owe my dad this footage because he slowed down specifically so I could get it. Thanks.
Okay, yeah.
Then we passed over this bridge over a river. I wrote down in the Photos app what the name of every river we passed over was, but for some reason it's not there, so I don't know. We ate our lunch on the way as we passed underneath this bridge. And of course there's another river/lake that I don't know the name of because my captions disappeared. Yeah, I missed the Welcome to Pennsylvania sign, but I did get this picture of the Welcome Center sign. I tried to get pictures of milepost signs with locomotive numbers on them. This was supposed to be Pennsylvania Railroad E6 460, but of course the sign looks like this and screwed it up. This was a sign for an exit to Knox, Pennsylvania, the town that the Knox and Kane Railroad is named after. This was the last Pennsylvania rest stop we stopped at before we arrived at our first destination. At it, we picked up this East Broad Top flyer. Didn't go there this trip. I'm just shocked I'm far enough east to get a flyer for it. I also picked up this flyer which had a picture of a Lionel Hamilton diesel in it. Slab Run Road. Man, road names are dumb. Then, we arrived at the place we'd be eating dinner, and our first destination, the railroad restaurant, Doolittle Station. Right outside of where we parked, there was a C&O chassis system caboose. Here's the history on a plaque inside. And here's the view from the cupola. This is the sign at Doolittle Station to tell everyone it's Doolittle Station. Here is Plymouth Bow diesel switcher number 12. And the view from inside the cab. Here's a New York Central baggage car. And it has model trains inside of it. So of course we went inside to see them. Unfortunately, they weren't running. But I did take some pictures. Like this one of a typical Norfolk Southern train. This one of a chassis system and CNO U-boat. General one of the layout. You can see a bicentennial caboose in the corner. A New Haven McGinnis scheme boxcar. Hey look, it's bulgy. A Pennsylvania Railroad 6-axle high hood Alco. And finally an Ertl Rusty. Then I made my way over from that cluster of stuff over to the little carrying caboose. This is what said caboose looks like. It's being propelled, or not really, but it's being quote-unquote pulled by this fireless locomotive, which I can't find any information anywhere on the internet about. But it has a horn, and that's weird, so I like it. Then we headed over from the little carrying caboose to this set of stuff over here. Or at least, I was supposed to. I took a quick picture of this Penn Central caboose before Dad asked me to come back because you could climb on top of a little carrying caboose. I hurt my ankle climbing on the way down and had to take a break to let it not hurt before I moved back to that other set of cars. This other cluster of rolling stock was full of interesting stuff, like this Conrail boxcar, this Pennsylvania Railroad baggage car that there's a bar inside, this caboose, this boxcar that's been converted into a restaurant that you can eat inside, this EJ&E end car, and this Amtrak car that you can eat inside. Even though it's Amtrak, it says RF&P on the side. It's kind of weird. It's clearly a patched car from Amtrak's Rainbow era. We moved from that cluster of cars over to this area. It's a whole dinosaur-themed building. We didn't go inside as our time at Doolittle Station was going to be short if we wanted to get to our hotel before like 9 at night. So we didn't go inside the building. Right next to it, though, was the most interesting thing here in my opinion. Cars from the last great circus train with Barnum and Bailey's Circus. I only know this train because it was pulled by my favorite locomotive ever, 3985. So, yeah. You couldn't go inside either of these cars. The doors were locked. We made our way over from where those circus cars were to this area with a crap ton of cabooses, like this unlettered red one, this one for the New York Central Pacemaker freight train, nice livery, this Conrail one, this one that's somehow B&O and Conrail at the same time, this Pittsburgh and Lake Erie one. Gotta say, P&LE has a great logo. Hey, look, it's the Milwaukee Road. This car is now a diner. Then we moved back over to the front to the main diner area to complete the loop and take a quick picture of this Pennsylvania Railroad coach. After that, we went to actually eat. So we headed up to this area into that Lehigh Valley boxcar that I mentioned before that you could eat inside, ate in it, and then returned to the parking lot to leave. Back on the road, I caught my first glimpse of the mountains I would spend so much of the rest of the journey looking at. Living in the incredibly flat Indiana, mountains is not something I see usually, so this was pretty cool. We were taking my grandpa's car, and something I noticed about it was really weird, that it had 2 back-facing mirrors. Not sure what the second smaller one is for. Someone can probably tell me. You know, they say a big part of Midwestern tourism is its skyscapes, and I can agree with that. Yeah, I tried to get the mile marker sign for Pennsylvania Railroad K4 1361, but for some reason in Pennsylvania, the mile marker signs only go up by 2s. So, yay! Oh, and Dad changed his internet name to I Heart Trains halfway through as a joke. Man, I love mountains. And then I tried to take a panoramic photo while the car was moving, and that went about as well as you'd think it would. Hi, everyone! I know all you can see is my feet right now. But we're in Scranton. God, street names are so stupid sometimes. We made it. There's the hotel. We made it. Oh, we're almost to Steamtown. I bet Dad could make a really dumb jingle about we're almost to Steamtown.
I totally could.
Do it.
We drove all day to go to Steamtown, but we got here late, so we're going tomorrow. Hope it rains all day, so Jacob is sad, and then I'll buy him an ice cream cone.
That night, we'd be staying at the Baymont Inn. I've got to say, it was a pretty nice place. Probably would have been even nicer if we had gotten a 3-bedroom instead of a 2-bedroom. It's fine. As you can see from this video, I was extremely hyped when I arrived. Once we got into the actual hotel, I took Big Boy out of my bag and took a photo shoot of him in the hotel. First thing next morning, we got up, ate breakfast, and made our way to Steamtown. Look, that's a locomotive owned by Steamtown. That was the first I ever saw of it. Here's a sign pointing to the Steamtown National Historic Site. And here's the official sign at the entrance to the museum. While my dad went to go get tickets for the excursion, me and my aunt headed down to look at Big Boy. This is Union Pacific Big Boy 4012, or 4012. I don't know, it's kind of a controversial debate on which way you're supposed to say it. On this day, I forgot to bring Big Boy the custom, so I moved on quickly from Big Boy over to this area. On this small turntable-ish is Galveston Paper Company number 7, and behind that is Canadian Pacific 2317, probably my favorite engine at Steamtown. I rushed over to the roundhouse because I heard the sound of Baldwin number 26 leaving the shed. Turns out, 26 was just firing up. I snapped a picture of this Lackawanna Hamilton switcher before I came back to the ticket booth to decide exactly what trains I wanted to ride. But then I heard a bell. Nickel Plate Road, GP9, number 514 was departing. It was pulling the first of today's caboose trips. It's just a single diesel locomotive, usually, and a caboose. As soon as I finished filming that, I raced over to the sheds, where the power for our train trip that day, Baldwin 060 switcher number 26, was leaving the sheds to turn onto the turntable and switch to get ready for the excursion that we would be riding. As you can see, I'm not the only one filming number 26. Just like in the olden days, Baldwin number 26 was slowly turned on the automatic turntable all the way around so we could enter the yard and pull our train trip for that day. While 26 was spinning, I got some pictures of the other engines, like 790 here, as well as Nickel Plate Road 759. I climbed up into the cab of 790 for a bit to get these two shots of number 26 turning from inside the cab. All I want to know is, could you technically count this as pacing the locomotive? There was also this eerie Lackawanna caboose, which I snapped a picture of, as well as a front-on shot of number 26, as I didn't get any more of these. There was also E.J. Lavin O & Co., number, I don't know, I can't read the number, as well as New Haven Track Rock Company 43. Finally, 26 was ready to leave the turntable and go out into the main yards in order to switch its excursion together. I made my way out of the roundhouse for a second over here, where I snapped a quick picture of 514 doing the caboose trip still. Then I moved inside the roundhouse, where I saw this Lehigh Valley boxcar, similar to the one I ate inside at Doolittle Station. This Lehigh Valley as well, end car. And this Baltimore and Ohio coach. But across the shed, there was this. A Lackawanna 260 Mogul that was undergoing an overhaul. Can't wait to see this engine in steam one day. Then we moved out of the roundhouse back to the open air. Then we caught number 26. Again, it was reversing. It moved from where we had caught it previously into the siding, and then it reversed back into a different siding. This siding had two coaches on it, which number 26 would pick up. You can see one of the park rangers, identifiable by his yellow vest, leaning out of the cab to see around the tender. We then moved into the other side of the roundhouse, where we saw Spang, Calfont and Company number 8. This locomotive is sectioned, and you can see how the boiler works. There was also this caboose that you can go inside, and a Lackawanna boxcar. There's also this display of, again, how a steam locomotive works. And from inside the museum, I caught this shot of number 759's number. But then I heard a bell and rushed out to catch number 26. It backed up a little bit. Just a little. This was to engage the couplings between the locomotive and the cars, and make sure they were all coupled before departure. Then I took a picture of the map that my dad had gotten, and then a nice panoramic shot of number 26, a Delaware Lackawanna Alco that was behind it, and the people who were there standing, filming, and looking at the engines. And then, with all the couplings engaged, number 26 was given the go-ahead to depart, and it did, with quite a spectacular show of steam from the cylinders there. The locomotive was pulling 2 Central Railroad of New Jersey coaches. The first one is a standard car, and the second one is a baggage car. While we waited for 26 to move, I snapped a front shot of 514, as well as Grand Trunk Western Mountain 6039. Honestly, I don't think this engine looks that good, but everyone else does, and I don't know why. Then, 26 reversed again to couple up the 2 CNJ coaches it already had to another CNJ coach that was going to be at the end of the train. Oh. Somebody fix that, please. Then, number 26 headed backwards to connect the coach. Then it headed forwards to test the tension on the coupling. It wasn't coupled. If you watch the engineer, you can see he looks back, realizes the coach is not coupled, and then pulls the brake to stop 26. And so 26 backed up again to try coupling the coach again. And then 26 moved back again, just to make sure they were actually coupled this time. They were. Then 26 moved forward to wait for the scheduled departure time for its excursion. And while I was waiting for number 26 to do something, I took a picture of this Delaware Lackawanna Alco. At the time, I thought this engine was a collection piece at Steamtown. Oh boy, was I wrong. I also snapped a picture of this Reading RS3 from far away. And then 514 departed with its caboose. And then, while 514 was gone, 26 moved forward to switch over that same switch onto the track that we were standing next to so that we could be picked up for the 10:15 excursion departure time.
the snow and this is the ox. So, you gotta get it.
How y'all doing? Y'all gonna be riding this thing?
And then, amidst the chaos of number 26, 514 returned with its caboose. Then, we boarded our excursion with number 26, and we sat in the last coach on the train so we could get the best views of 26 when it rounded the bends. We also got another picture of that Reading RS3 since we were closer now. And of course we saw these Lackawanna F units in the maintenance shop. And Lackawanna SW8, I still have no idea how to tell the EMD switches apart, number 500. And then we passed by 2457, an Alco 6425 to be exact. The guy on the train talked about the fact that Steamtown shared its rail yard with a short line, but I didn't think anything of this specific engine as the train continued down the track. And we passed by 6039 again, and I commented about how most of it looks good, but the front would rather do without that front number board. And then I saw BSC number 1. This engine is very similar to a trains model that I use all the time for something I do with my brother called the Ronald story, which is basically a Thomas and Friends style thing, but with American locomotives. And it's about an engine named Ronald who rescues engines. And a lot of the engines he rescued were of this type. And I was extremely surprised to see one in preservation, and I made it my mission to get some good photos of it on the way back. Then we passed by Canadian National 47, a 464 Hudson tank engine. And nearby that was Reading T1 number 2124, which had just had a cosmetic restoration done. At the time of my visit, it was still displayed on Steamtown's official website in its old condition before it was given its cosmetic restoration. Man, does that look good.
On the Reading, when the Reading Road again. The outer station, Franklin Street, and the shops at 6th and Spring. The clickety-clack and all aboard is of those I see.
I don't know what that sound is, but it's definitely not good, is what I thought as I passed by Railway Valley RR number 15. When I first came in, I thought it said Railway Railroad RR on that, and I was very confused. And then I saw two more Delaware Lackawanna Alcos, one of them in a Delaware Lackawanna livery, and one of them in a Lehigh Valley livery. Again, I thought nothing of these engines and thought they were just museum pieces at Steamtown. Both are C420s.
You got me confused. I'm like, no, you can't take me.
Then we passed over a bridge over the road we had used to get into Steamtown. Pretty funny, huh? The engine sat on here for a little bit, and I took this shot of a nice signal box, as well as the bridge and the coach. Soon enough, the engine departed once again.
Oh! Jake, did you hear that? Darn freight train.
But then, I turned around to see this. Delaware-Lackawanna 3000, a C630M on the head of a freight train. And then it hit me. Delaware-Lackawanna was the short line that Steamtown was cooperating with. Their entire fleet was Alcos. Every one of them that was DL that I had seen up to that point was in revenue service. Despite that massive big brain moment, I didn't stop taking pictures of the other engines. Here we can see Main Central 519, but what's behind it is more interesting. That water tender is the tender of an NYC Hudson. Sorry whoever owned this car, it looks like Ross Rowland has claimed it. Soon enough, the train was pulling ahead, through Delaware-Lackawanna's yard. Then the train stopped and started reversing back the other direction. According to the guy inside the train talking over the radio, the reason why the train was backing up was because any further would require them to pay money to DL for access to their main line. He said, and I quote, "We can't, it costs more than $6. I snapped a photo of some Lackawanna interurban cars as the train pulled back into the main Steamtown area. After that, it headed back onto the bridge, and across the canyon we saw some BNSF grain cars moving, and snapped another quick picture of 3000, which is now my favorite Alco. And on the way back, we caught 514 moving its caboose around. I succeeded at my goal at taking some good pictures of BSC-1, using my dad's relatively good camera to my advantage. Once we got off the train, 514 was there with its caboose. I was planning to go tour some of the other exhibits and go up on the catwalk above the massive scrapyard that I had just seen, but 514 was right there, and Dad asked if I wanted to get on the caboose or not. Of course, I said yes. Now, while 26 was shuffling its cars around, I had befriended one of the National Park Service people who worked at Steamtown, and he just so happened to be operating the caboose. So, he let us in without tickets. Thanks. We passed by that absolutely destroyed Long Island rotary snowplow. We also passed by several other steam locomotives, including Grand Trunk Western 6039 again, and 3254, a Canadian National Mikado that used to operate at Steamtown, but it's not operating anymore, unfortunately. 47 has a tree growing in its bunker. Then we passed by 405 and 414 again, before the train stopped and reversed back into the station. Here you can see all the steam locomotives lined up in a line, and 26 behind them. After the caboose, we headed back in to snap another picture of 759. Actually, we headed back in because my aunt had to go to the bathroom. While we were taking a picture of 759, though, 514 showed up with yet another caboose run. After I got that video, we headed up to the catwalk that goes over the scrapyard area at Steamtown, stopping to get a proper picture of 21-24 on our way. Then we headed across the lots of tracks and up onto the catwalk. But then, number 26 showed up, pushing another excursion with a fresh load of passengers. So of course I had to stop to film it. We didn't even get the chance to walk any farther before Phila Suburban Transit number 76, a interurban trolley, showed up on the other side of the tracks. While I was filming 76, 26 had been switching, and soon enough, it headed through the depot with its passengers. Finally, I got to take pictures of the stuff in the off-limits area down underneath the catwalk, like Canadian Pacific 29-23, which is a 444, and a Mao crane that's partially wrapped up, as well as two F units, 902A and 903A. I gotta say, there is quite a lot of off-limit stuff here. Wish Steamtown would restore some of it and put it on display, but that's asking a lot considering how destroyed most of this stuff is. After that, we decided we were all hungry and headed all the way up the catwalk to the marketplace at Steamtown, where we got Runo's Pizza for lunch, and it was really good. Then we headed back down the catwalk to get back to ground level. But while we were doing that, I saw this forklift. It's lifting up these little tubs of coal. 26 was running low from all the runs it was doing that day and needed a top off. While 26 was waiting for its top off, 515 showed up to join the party. Soon enough, the forklift showed up to give 26 its coal. And then, across the yard, I spotted two Delaware Lackawanna Alcos pushing a gondola into the siding. I was going to sit around and wait for 26 to depart, but I had already caught that and I knew it would happen again, so I decided to book it. I ran across the catwalk as fast as I could over to the other side near the depot so that I could catch the 2 Delaware-Lackawanna Alcos. The first one is a true Alco, a C630, and the second one is an MLW copy of the same engine. After catching the 2 Alcos, we decided to head back to the shed because we weren't really sure what we were going to do next. We had done everything aside from the trolley museum and were running out of ideas. So we decided to go into the technology museum. First thing in the technology museum was this timeline. Not sure exactly what it is, but it's a timeline. And there was United States Mail Railway Post Office Car 100. In the same room was this Lackawanna F unit model, number 760, along with an end car that it was paired with. These were obviously like a tourist railroad thing at one point. Here's Erie Business Car, number 3, and you can go inside both these cars. So I went inside Erie Business Car, number 3. Looks nice in here. Here's the dining area. That sign there is to tell you not to sit in the chairs. And here's, of course, the Louisville and Nashville mail car again, and of course what the inside looks like, complete with mail bags that were used for on-the-go mail pickup and drop-off. And the sorting room. Man, that is a lot of stuff. We wrote off the trolley museum as something to do tomorrow, so we only had one other option to do for the rest of that day. Watch 26 depart again. We headed back into the yard where we took a picture of the bearing of that Alco, and then I did a photo and video montage of number 26. After that sick video montage, 26 finally departed, with a nice ring of its bell and plenty of steam blasting from the cylinders. As it had done so many times before, 26 backed up with its consist through the yard to switch onto the tracks and go through the depot again onto the Delaware-Lackawanna line in order to give its passengers a longer ride. Then we headed out to the front to brainstorm what we should do. We couldn't go to the trolley museum. We were doing that tomorrow. While we were talking, Dad thought that this emblem on the side of CN 2317 didn't say Canadian Pacific, so I took these two pictures to prove to him that it did say Canadian Pacific. We decided to leave for the day and rail fan for the rest of the day instead of staying at Steamtown, as we had exhausted pretty much everything we planned to do. So we headed back to the hotel, where my dad and aunt rested for a bit, and for a bit I mean literally an entire hour of just sleeping, and I stayed awake because I can literally never take a nap ever, before we decided to go rail fanning. My aunt stayed because she was asleep still, so my dad took me. We headed from our hotel towards the nearest railway tracks in search of Alcos on the Delaware-Lackawanna. We passed by a lot of railway tracks, but didn't see any locomotives. Then, as our car was slowly driving up Green Ridge Street, I caught a glimpse of what I was looking for through the trees. We stopped the car and climbed out, only to see Von Storch Locomotive Facility, one of the stabling facilities on the Delaware-Lackawanna. Exactly what I was looking for. Some interesting things around the facility were this ballast spreader, number 9809, this massive mow crane. For some reason, it's lettered for Canadian Pacific, yet on the back it has a giant American. Interesting. The engine I had spotted from between the trees was number 2461, and it was a tribute unit to the Erie-Lackawanna, painted in its paint scheme, but still having Delaware-Lackawanna reporting marks. Hey look, a mow truck. Never seen one of these before. Well, one that looks like this anyway. The other locomotive there was DL3007, a patched GECX demonstrator-ish unit. Basically, it was painted by GECX for leaser service before it was bought by Delaware-Lackawanna and then ended up here. It's the same class as 3000, but this one hasn't been repainted into the Delaware-Lackawanna livery yet. And on the way out, we saw this disengaged automatic derail. We headed east down the line to try and find a train, as none showed up over at Von Storch. And, we ended up back at Steamtown. But next to Steamtown was this ledge with a railway track at the bottom. There was also a path that went down the side of the railroad tracks, so we decided to take it to see if we could see a train down the line. We didn't see any trains. The only railroad-related thing we saw besides the tracks was this Western Pacific frame. After that, we left and headed back to the hotel. The next day, we got up early-ish, and everyone was extremely tired. But nonetheless, we left Baymont Inn for the last time to go back to Steamtown. Today, we would be riding a long-distance excursion up the Delaware-Lackawanna. Once we arrived at Steamtown, Dad went to go get tickets for the excursion, so me and Aunt headed over to 4012 to get our pictures of my Trackmaster Custom Big Boy in front of it.
Up and over Sherman, passing the mountains of Utah, this giant locomotive can easily climb them all. Overland through Green River, Cheyenne to Laramie. Big boy going down the tracks, a real sight to see. Big boy, see the driving wheels are pounding on a big, big boy. Big boy, through the plains of Wyoming rides a big, big boy. Hear the distant whistle blowing of a big, big boy. Mighty tighten up that line, big, big boy.
Dad finally returned with the tickets, and so we headed down to do the trolley museum. Outside was this small box cab. Not sure what it is. Can't find any info on it. There's also this sign for the trolley rides that were happening this day, which I didn't get to ride. And inside the trolley museum, there was a number 153 block signal. Guys, look! It's a TNO P5. Oh my god, those are so rich! There was also this movie about, trolleys. It's the trolley museum. There's also this Doodlebug? I think it's Doodlebug. The first trolley I got to go inside was number 506 here, in its 1920s paint scheme. Oh yes, my favorite. Accurate period advertisements. This is the system used to make the trolley go. Inside the next room, there was this whole giant display of the area around Scranton. And there was an overhead railway with a TSC trolley on it. Here you can see it passes by one of the scenic sections of the railway with a house and some trees, and then over a bridge. Hopping out on the other side of the tunnel, the trolley passes by the last little scenic section of the railway before moving to a non-scenic section over the doorway. Soon enough, the trolley passes by the station at the center and then heads over another non-scenic section next to the other doorway, the one I used to get into this room. The railway also had a second trolley and freight train, but they didn't move. There was a second railway with another blue trolley that operated around what looked like a circus in a loop. The interesting thing about this railway was somehow it was driven by this crank. When you cranked it, the trolley would move in whatever direction you did. Interesting. I know it might be hard to believe, but it didn't do that. In the next room, there was Philadelphia and Western trolley number 46. And this display about the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad, with their old logo, and then a model of an E-unit set in the McGinnis scheme. Yeah, the interiors of both the other two trolleys were closed. Those said two trolleys were Philly Limited in 801. And this one, yeah, it needs help. Hey look, another big boy, except this one's a model. In the middle, there was a model railway, an O gauge, with this GP30 as its power. It wasn't operating though. There was lots of controllers and wires and stuff around the railway, so we tried flicking some of the levers to get the train to move, but it didn't. There's also these scratch-built trolleys. There was two other trolleys over here. This strange 2-axle one, as well as just a normal, standard 4-axle one, number 651. Oh, and this was in the gift shop. Don't question it. Just don't. Having done everything inside, we headed outside to check out the 3 trolleys that were outside. But we saw Lehigh Valley, actually Delaware-Lackawanna, 414 moving. There was obviously Alco activity outside the museum. But it stopped for a second, allowing me to get a picture of those 3 trolleys. Those being 8534, and this South Shore one that was, well, it's basically a baggage-powered trolley. And then there's this SEPTA one, number 206. We moved over to where 414 had been in hopes of catching more Alcos. Number 405, a C420, was there. As well as 414, of course, and that set of 6 axles from yesterday. Then, luckily for us, the 2 C630s started to move forward to make a switch move. Far away, we could see number 26 heading towards us making a switch move. And speaking of switch moves, the 2 C630s backed up to couple up to 414 and connect it to the back of them, presumably to supply more power for their freight train. Meanwhile, 26 had cleared the switch and backed up back into the roundhouse. While I filmed the Alcos, my aunt and dad looked at mushrooms and picked flowers. Soon enough, the 3 Alcos moved forward to clear another switch. Now that they had cleared the switch once again, they backed up onto the same line that the 2 6-axles had been sitting on earlier. After the Alcos had stopped, the engineer got out to go talk to the signal operator. After a short wait, the engineer returned back into the cab of his Alco to clear another switch and switch the 3 Alcos onto yet another line. They pushed the freight train backwards with quite an Alco show of smoke before they cleared the switch and were able to pull forwards onto yet another line. With the Alcos now out of sight, we decided to head to go ride the caboose, as today, 26 would be pulling the caboose train. We got in line to ride the caboose, but we didn't get tickets, so we weren't let in. We didn't get around 7:59 before 26 departed, so this shot was all I got of it departing. Luckily for me, though, it stopped almost immediately and waited here. Gave me time to run around 7:59 to get this shot. As 26 backed up, shifting the caboose train into the yard, the excursion that we'd be riding that day backed up as well. And then I filmed this video about my crappy mission to go find those 3 Alcos from earlier that pretty much disappeared. This episode we were at Steamtown National Historic Site, and we're trying to solve the mystery of where those Alcos we saw earlier went. I have no idea. They were over there, and then they passed by all those gondolas behind the 21-24 here. And then when I went across the tracks to see them on the other side of the gondolas, they were gone. Whatever happened to those Alcos? We have to find them. Actually, one of them is an MLW, not an Alco. That bell, by the way, is Baldwin 26. 060 steam switcher. See, behind 15 there, that's where the Alcos should be, but they're not there. I'm not talking about that Alco, or the Alco that's pulling that train. I'm talking about the two big C636, and then the one small Lehigh Valley one. They should be over here, but they're not. And no, it's not that Alco behind that Alco either. So there's the excursion. We arrived at the depot where our 4-car excursion was waiting for us to board. Also at the depot was that trolley from yesterday that we had caught on the bridge. Speaking of the bridge, this different angle gave me a better view of the front of 2923. The 2 engines propelling our train was 2457, that Alco C425 from yesterday, and nickel plate 514. However, this different angle did allow me to solve the mystery of what happened to those Alcos. We solved the mystery. See that intersection right there? The one in front of those cars? The Alcos probably went down there. Mystery solved. Spitting is forbidden. Well, that seems kinda random. I also got this admittedly bad picture of 405. Before, the train finally departed, on its way to Goldsboro, another station with a depot farther up the line.
You can hear the conductor yell all aboard, then the boxcars leap and the engines roar. The clanging of the bells forms a beautiful chord. I'm riding on a train. The signal lights are all aglow, and the boxcars are lined up in a row. My bags are packed and I'm ready to go. I'm riding on a train. I love to ride on the old railroad. Why, it's better than some old TV show. It doesn't really matter just to where I go. I'm on my way, on my way, on my way, yeah. The whole wide world goes passing by under a beautiful sunny sky. Everything's perfect, oh me, oh my. I'm riding on a train.
Soon enough, we had arrived at our destination of Goldsboro. The passengers were brought to the front of the train, which allowed me to get this photo before climbing off and then taking this outside photo of 2457. Very nice Alco. Then I took a picture of the coach we had ridden in, Central Railroad of New Jersey 303. Across the yard, the people at Goldsboro were doing a demonstration of how to remove and replace the tire of a steam locomotive. It was pretty interesting, but they didn't actually move the tire. We knew the train would have to leave and go somewhere else to run around since the track was only single track. Then 514 rolled away for about 5 seconds before it stopped again. Okay, off we go. For real this time. Epic Alconess in 3, 2, 1. Inside the depot, they had this exhibition on the ice industry that used to be one of the largest industries at Goldsboro before the advent of refrigeration. Here's a picture of what the depot looked like before and after it was restored. There's also this painting of Southern Pacific Motive Power. This puzzle with the, quote, legends of the rails on it. Then we headed out of the depot and I got a picture of what it looks like. Another quick pic of the railroad crossing. One of the National Park Service guys told us that there was an old signal tower a couple feet down the line. We headed down the line only to find this. This is not the signal tower. He told us later that it's actually a quarter mile down the line. Oof. By that time, the train was coming and it was too late to go see it. Next to the railroad crossing is this pretty fancy clock. We walked down the line a little bit. There wasn't anything interesting, only this 113 mile marker sign and the nice looking swamp behind it. Wonder how many animals are in there. These rails were made in 1955. That's the oldest I've ever seen. You know, the guy on the train said that the original Lackawanna, the DL&W, was sometimes known as delayed, late, and waiting. Well, its modern counterpart seems to be keeping up with that tradition because the train was a whole 8 minutes late. I wish Amtrak could say that. Ah, there it is. In reality, the only reason I had been sitting here for so long was because I was literally just sitting here waiting for the train to show up so I could get that nice shot of 2457, which I did. So, good job, past me.
Let's just stand behind this.
Seeing as the train was running late, all the passengers got up and got ready to board almost immediately. We were instructed to head back into the same coach we had ridden on, so I got back into 303. Soon enough, the train departed. I didn't take very much footage of the run back because I was absolutely exhausted, so enjoy the little bit I have. I'm not sure why, but the train stopped for a little bit in front of the depot before actually reaching there. Not sure why, but okay. Hey look, it's those three Alcos from earlier. They were on the other side, so I only got a picture of the end of the Lehigh Valley one, but nonetheless it was cool. Soon enough, the train was pulling back into Steamtown. You can see the trolley. It still hadn't departed. Getting off the train, we prepared to leave. We headed across the depot and then across the tracks, but 26 showed up, and I supposed that I should stop for one more shot of the 060 before we left. After that, we left Steamtown for the third and final time. Well, we're leaving Steamtown. There's our excursion over there. Probably not going to be back here for couple of years at least. Now there's a smoke from number 26. Oh, it's coming back. Probably not going to be here for, probably not going to be back here for quite a while, so. Just,
Did you enjoy the time?
yes, I did enjoy the time I had.
Well, that's all.
He gave me a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
9 out of 10 on how well it went.
It did go pretty well. There you go.
Honk, honk. Here comes the steam engine, guys. There it is.
So I can't stop.
Steam train. Whoa. I've already filmed it like 80 billion times, but I film it again. Because, yeah, there's a separate trolley. Well, it's time to say goodbye to Steamtown, the Trolley Museum, and the Delaware Lackawanna. Unless something ridiculous happens. Yeah. I'm a boy. After that, it was on the road again, heading back west. This time, we would go through all of Pennsylvania, but we would be making one stop, Doolittle Station. My aunt had seen some staghorn sumac, which you can collect and eat on the way. So, yeah, we were gonna stop there again. Norfolk and Western, doodaloo, 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 there's no stop. Soon enough, we arrived back at Doolittle Station. And by soon enough, I mean literally 6 hours later. We got out, collected the sumac, and left immediately afterwards. And this here was the last Pennsylvania rest stop we stopped at before we made our way back into Ohio. Much later, we arrived in Youngstown, Ohio. My aunt had booked a reservation at a hotel in Youngstown so that we could go to the J&L narrow gauge, but it was closed on the day we showed up. So as a result, we had to think of something else to do in Youngstown, and we came up with the idea to go rail fanning at Berea, which is relatively nearby and is one of the most high concentration railway areas in the nation, or according to Google it was. While I was bored that night, I decided to take a picture of the souvenirs I had picked up at Steamtown, like this Reading 21-24 card that I had picked up on the caboose ride, the ticket and receipt for the first short train ride with number 26, the receipt for the Runo's pizza we bought, this frame which I purchased when I stopped at the gift shop, and this band that was required to get on the excursion the day this photo was taken. After that, we chilled the rest of the night, went to bed, excited-ish, because we were all exhausted, for the third and final day of our adventures. The next day, we were up, not as early as the last 2 days, to continue the journey. We drove about an hour west of Youngstown to Berea. On our way to Berea, we stopped at our dad's friend's house and picked up his daughter. She had agreed to go with us rail fanning because both of her parents worked from home and she didn't have anything else better to do. Oh boy, did she not know what she was getting herself into. See, Berea is such a good rail fanning spot because it's got the CSX line that runs through Wellsboro, the NS line that runs through the depot, and not to mention the abandoned interlocking tower and depot. Well, the depot isn't abandoned, it's just a museum now. I gave my aunt the second camera and tasked her to take pictures of the train when one showed up, while I took a video with the second camera. The first train that showed up was a Monday Norfolk Southern oil train with a GEVO leading and an AC-44 trailing. The next train was a CSX intermodal, And this train was really cool because it was a General Electric wide cab timeline. Leading was the newest in the technology, the ES44DC, a Tier 4 GEVO, and trailing its earliest wide cab predecessor, a C40-8W, getting increasingly rare on CSX. The third train was a very short intermodal with a BNSF-9 leading and a Union Pacific Ace in second. In between trains, this high rail truck showed up. The third train was a CSX mixed freight with a Canadian National GEVO leading, a CSX CM44AC in the middle, and an SD40-2 in trail. CSX has been rebuilding their SD40-2s into SD40-3s, so it's a good thing we get to see this SD40-2 before it inevitably gets rebuilt. The CSX mixed freight stopped on the line, but it would eventually leave. Oh, another train. I'm so used to trains blowing their horns from the depot in Wellsboro, so I was caught off guard by this one. It's a normal Norfolk Southern intermodal with two AC-44s sandwiching a GEVO. We then decided to leave, but we wanted to tour the depot first. So I went over and got some pictures of this Pennsylvania Railroad 1927 coach, the actual depot itself, and the Berea Union Depot, Ohio historical marker sign. It was a short drive to Olmsted Falls, the next rail fanning location we were going to stop at. At the depot, there was a stack of weirdly light bricks, a preserved PRR caboose, and the sign that says Olmsted Falls. Then we left, but as we were leaving, this Norfolk Southern train snuck up on us, so of course I got out of the car to film it. The last jump was pretty standard, with an AC-44 leading and a -9 trailing, but we did get away from the engineer. I got back in the car just in time to only get crappy pictures of the rear DPU. But it was a GEVO, so no big loss. Then we headed off to our third and final destination for the trip, Brook Park RTA Rapid Transit Station. I had only documented one rapid transit authority, that being the CTA in Chicago, so I wanted to get the opportunity to document the RTA as well. But on our way in, we ended up accidentally chasing that previous Norfolk Southern train, so I was able to get this video of the GEVO at the end. Once we got up into the station, we caught RTA number 333 headed for the airport. And then we got RTA 181 headed for Windermere. We drove back to my dad's friend's house to drop his daughter back off. Before then, we headed home. I didn't take very many videos / pictures of the way home because I was, again, very tired. After all that, I definitely recommend anyone who doesn't have to drive 20 hours, or even if they do, if they tolerate driving enough, to visit Steamtown, the Delaware Lackawanna, and even Berea if you're in the area. I certainly had a good time visiting all three of these places, and I'd like to remind you to come back next time for another documentary just like this one.
Heading down to the station where I'll catch train.